We had such a beautiful soul talk last night, Beth, sharing around the holidays. The holidays are coming up. It's Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating. It's such a season of light, but it also can be a time when you feel the darkness. There's so many that feel alone, that feel that are missing, that are grieving, that are feeling a loss and missing others that maybe aren't here, and feeling that they aren't in this joyous feeling that we all are supposed to feel. And there's a lot of emotional and physical pain that can separate us and make us feel that disconnect. And sometimes it's at our holidays. We think of Thanksgiving, or we think of, Christmas and so forth, where it's even more pronounced than it would be on a normal day.
Yeah, there's a lot of clients who are talking about feelings of loneliness, and it's hard when you feel lonely and all you see are, and I'm not going to say it's propaganda. It's not propaganda, but it can feel like that, meaning it's like trying to convince you that it's like happy holidays.
Mhm.
Right in the saying happy holidays, and you look and you think that everyone's happy and joyous and peaceful and gathering with their families, and it is a time that highlights loneliness for people who do feel alone. And when you look around, it's not too much different than I've had talks with my girls when they were teenagers about, going on social media, and everyone looks so happy and everyone posts about like the happy moments, and it's I'd say to them, if you're not feeling great, we shouldn't be on so much anyway, but if you're not feeling great, it's not the place you want to be, because it does make you feel worse. So there's something that's actually very healing and comforting about matching what you feel inside. So to say I should put on a happy face or I should be joyous actually is what feels more painful
Right.
than just to speak the truth of I feel lonely. I don't feel good. I don't feel happy. I don't feel joyous. And just being honest will help you get through the holidays.
Mhm. You're so right. It's that feeling of disconnect, because what you're really actually feeling is not matching up to what you're supposed to feel, or you are supposed to put out. And the more that, I think that gap actually expands when we aren't honoring that, because we
Yeah.
know the truth that we don't feel connected, or we feel lonely, or we don't feel that joy and that happiness. And it just seems like oceans away to find, where do we connect to? And
Mhm.
then we actually disconnect even further from ourselves,
Yeah.
because we're really not listening to ourselves. We're not really honoring, like you were saying, those feelings. And the truth is too, is that we aren't alone. There's so many of us that feel that loneliness or that sadness. I mean, we've all felt it at different times. I used to say when I was little, I would cry inside. I would feel that a sadness inside, but I would not necessarily share with it on the outside. And I think it's sharing our insides with our outsides, making that is the first thing that connects. And then on the outside, share with those, around us. But it's first honoring that, yeah, you don't have to, say why it is or anything, but you just say that it is what it is, right? You first name what it is without having to justify why you feel that way, but you're first honoring that you're feeling that way.
Well, that's actually, feelings can change when you honor them. It's when you deny them and try and act differently that they linger and that they stay longer. You might actually feel better, and very often people do, when they honor what they're feeling. And there's nothing wrong with you. That's
Mhm.
what I want to say, because people think when they see some, like all the TV, I just noticed how many Christmas movies there are on Netflix, or
Mhm.
just in general, like they're everywhere, and they're pretty much all romantic comedies, or just happy ones. And then you see all people put on this, people see that all this joy, there's so much joy in all the Christmas songs, and you think something's wrong with me. I'm not feeling that. What's wrong with me? There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with you. It's
Mhm.
just how you're feeling for whatever reason. So you don't even have to know the reason. Just honor
Exactly.
what you're feeling. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel sad. And if you feel sad every holiday, you might even know the answer, but still think there's something wrong with you. So I have a client who has always put on a happy face, and she learned to do that since she was a child, and went through a lot of trauma, and she always put that smile on. And when I met with her, she said, I'm not feeling anything right now. And she said, my body kind of feels heavy, and my brain feels like, like it's just not working too well. And after talking with her intuitively, I said, you're feeling sad.
Mm.
And she said, yeah, I am a little sad. But she
Mm.
was so out of touch with what that feeling was. She thought
Mm.
she was feeling nothing, because
Mm.
she was so used to pushing that aside and putting on that happy face. And she was actually feeling her feelings, and it
Mm.
was sadness, and she wasn't used to it. And it felt uncomfortable. It felt, she was like, well, there's something wrong with me because I'm feeling sad. And and it's just that she always pushed herself to feel happy. So she thought, if I'm not happy, then I'm numb. And
Mm.
then she realized, no, I've just been sad.
Mm. Mm. Beautiful that you could help her name it, to name it and normalize it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, everybody can feel sad at any time. I know the holidays are extra hard because of what we just talked about, because it's like in your face of, joy and family gatherings,
Such
and
expectations. Mhm.
and yeah, and to be happy, and it's the happy time, the joyous time of the year, and it does make you feel worse in
Mhm.
some ways, than just a general day, or a general, season or time of year. So my recommendation is to just match what you're feeling, and practice self-care. And
Mhm.
self-care is about not going on a social media and seeing all the postings of all the happiness and happy gatherings, or maybe not watching a happy, feel good movie. I have always done this, and actually my son does it too. He puts on sad movies. He likes sad movies when he's
Mhm.
sad. And I
Mhm.
have always felt that. When I feel sad, I want to watch a sad movie, because I want to know that I'm not alone. Like you
Mhm.
said, that there's someone who
So,
gets it.
so beautiful. I mean, reminds me how sometimes in grief and loss, it is around grief and loss and sadness that we feel the connection,
Yeah.
because that's what we're connecting to, our real feeling. So when we connect with another who's experiencing that or who's feeling that, then we feel seen and heard, and there's something that resonates because that's where we're at. We're
Yeah.
not trying to be something artificially that we cannot feel or get to or name. So makes perfect sense to put on a sad song. And the song or the movie, again, it helps you to deeply feel it. And then I think what you mentioned earlier, Beth, is so beautiful, that things change. Every moment changes. So while we're feeling that now, or however long we're going to feel it, things change.
Yeah.
So we know that we'll feel something different in in a moment or in time, because nothing stays the same. Change is constant. Change is something that we can always count on. So that kind of gives you hope that, but it allows you at the same time to honor again that feeling, to find where it's resonating, who are you connecting with, who's feeling the same. And isn't that beautiful? Whether it's a person or a song or whatever, it's that it's in that connection that you reaffirm the connection. So it's in that sadness or that loneliness, connecting with something that resonates with loneliness, that you are connected again, that is healing and that changes the situation.
You know, I was thinking exactly what you're saying. I connect with what you're saying, because what I always hear and what I always tell people is my favorite AA saying that I stole from them, but this too shall pass. You know, and when we're in the depths of grief or sadness or loneliness, it just feels like it's never going to end. And I think about, well, didn't the last time you were happy, that ended because now you're feeling sad, but we don't think about that when we're happy, because it feels easier, feels better, if there's such a word. So, you know, something around knowing that it will pass. It always moves, always is moving. You're not feeling that every day. And if you are, you know, chemically, it could be something going on. But if there's not anything related to anything chemically in your brain, it will pass. Even can pass during the holiday that you're dreading. When you're matching it, you might notice that you feel lighter and maybe want to do something or whatever. But it does, everything passes. Everything changes, doesn't stay the same. It's just harder when we're in pain, whether it's physical or emotional.
And I think that's so true. And I think the other thing that you kind of touched on earlier is that we're not alone. We're not the only one feeling lonely. We're not the only one feeling sad. We're not the only one feeling grief or feeling, you know, those feelings that aren't, you know, you said the happy ones are so easy. Well, that's because it's sort of accepted. You know, we're supposed to be always in a happy, good place, right? It's not always accepted to be not feeling great, not feeling happy, feeling sad, or feeling depressed about things. That's not a desired place, nor the place we're all supposed to kind of be. So I think to go back and to know that we're not alone. We're never alone. We are sharing an experience. Others are sharing that too. And that's, again, maybe where we can find that connection, but also to know that we have so much love around us and we can just sit with that and put music on that opens us into our heart. Even if it's sad music, it's touching our hearts. And it's through our hearts, I think, that is where we feel that connection.
Yeah. And it's about being vulnerable, and putting on that happy face masks the vulnerability. And being vulnerable and the vulnerability is through the heart. And that's where true connection happens, because you could be at a party and feel very lonely and be surrounded by hundreds of people. And when we match what we're feeling, when it's sadness or we need someone to help comfort us, or in reaching out ourselves or reaching out to ourselves, we're saying, I feel sad, I feel lonely, I need to say this, and I need to be vulnerable enough to be able to match that feeling. And that vulnerability is the true connection through our heart. So it's the vulnerability that so many of us are afraid of, and
Mhm.
why we run from that feeling of sadness with the putting on the happy face. And we can also go to anger. We can be Grinches, in Christmas. We could become very angry at the world, and or angry at a person, or whatever. That is also masking our vulnerability,
Mhm.
because it feels uncomfortable, it feels unsafe. For so many people who feel that loneliness weren't allowed to express it, or weren't met with open arms and a hug and comfort that
Mhm.
would help them to feel safe. So it's
Mhm.
about vulnerability, and and that leads to the truest and deepest connection with ourselves, and
Mhm.
even possibly with someone else. If you could reach out to someone who is safe during those moments and share what you're feeling truly from your heart.
Mhm. Beautiful. Again, it speaks to that self-care, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of
And
yourself, no matter what you're feeling, and not judge yourself for what you're feeling. To move away from judgment into just being.
yeah. And if you don't have that person to help you, start to think about who the people in your life. If you have a lot of people in your life and you don't have that person you can go to, think about the person you're bringing into your life, and what you would like to see in your life, and the people you'd like to see around you. Then, and in the short run, practice that self-love, just
Mhm.
just by naming. We don't have to do these elaborate practices, but just by naming what we're feeling is that self-care, and that will go such a long way through the holidays, whatever it is for you. It could be something you go and do. It could be just naming what you're feeling. It could be putting on a sad song. Those are all self-care. And so many people find it hard to take care of themselves because they're feeling that unworthiness. They're feeling that loneliness. But just start with saying, I feel scared. I feel sad. I feel lonely. I feel unworthy. And that will help open everything up.
You're so beautiful. I'm just hearing, again, self-love is self-awareness.
Mm, beautiful. So thank you for listening, and please email us with any questions if you need a session during the holidays. We do have a wait list right now, but we will always welcome emails, and love to you and your process, and just meeting yourself where you're at. Thank you.